Before we wrap up this few videos on trend and seasonality, I'll share some thoughts. In any chosen forecasting methods or any chosen data set, you'll have initialization issues. That is, we have limited data in the beginning, and as you do more forecasting, that data set grows. We'll examine an idea to address this limited data issue in next couple of videos, probably next week. In many real world scenarios, there is often the model selection problem in how much data to use and what data to use. We saw some of this example in the Yellowstone forecasting example, right? MA10 versus MA20. We'll see more of this issue in the upcoming lectures. Simple time series data and simple short-term forecasting and this method performed really well in operation statistics and all kind of operation data. This very simple models perform really well. I mean, it's not finance where you need very complex model to predict something. But again, the point is short-term forecasting. In fact, long-term forecasting, assuming trend, same trend, same seasonality, etc., is filled with pitfalls since technology change may happen. For example, it's better to forecast demand over the next day or the next week instead of forecasting demand over long term. Like next year or next 3 years or so on, those are very difficult to predict. Finally, tracking of errors is very useful for locating forecast bias. In the next session, we'll look a little bit more in depth of this tracking this forecasting errors and how it can help you make better models. After that, we'll look into a little bit more about how this can be more practical. But in this video and the video before, we looked at one very special problem that you don't see much of it in your previous classes, I hope, but you didn't know or you did not know how to operationalize this idea of looking into seasonality and how you can use that as a strength to your models, right? And we will use now the problem in operations sometimes is how do you use forecasting methods to forecast for new products for which you don't have data. We'll look into that too. And this last few videos was really about forecasting fundamentals in operations. Very simple stuff, but more operationalizable things that you can use right away. Being able to describe your data and being able to understand the pattern in your data goes a long way in forecasting future events in operations. We studied data that showed a trend and we looked at the data with seasonal effects. These are the two most important patterns you'll ever see in all kind of operations data. We analyzed two important applications. One example analyzed how to forecast visitors to a national park, and the other example studied the airline load factors. I hope that these examples demonstrate the importance of thinking about forecasting methods in various settings. Before I move on to the next idea, I'll work on a clothing retailer based example. Then we'll wrap up this week.